Hey, what's up guys? I'm PTC. Continuing the discussion on possible new map types in Overwatch. This time, it's multiple payload. In Team Fortress 2, they have maps with multiple payloads, and for me, those are some of the most fun to play. There are several different versions of the multiple payload maps. The simplest one is similar to a single payload, where both of the carts are close together and the route that they take runs parallel. I don't really care for that one too much because it feels too easy for one team to pull ahead, and then the other team is just never really able to catch up. Another type is where both payloads start at opposite ends of the map, basically by your own team's spawn point. And the goal is to get your cart from your spawn all the way over to where the enemy team's spawn is. With this type of dual payload map, the start of the round is pretty slow and uneventful, but as the carts get closer to each other, that's when all the combat really starts. As the round goes on, it gets harder and harder to move your team's cart because the further you push it, the closer it gets to the enemy team's spawn, where they have the advantage. Now, the third and final type of dual payload map is one where the payload route is a lot more interesting. Instead of simply running parallel or opposite like the first two I mentioned, this third type has a style where both teams have crisscrossing payload routes. The route for the payload is mirrored for both teams, and at certain points the payloads would intersect at crossings, making for very heated battles at those locations. Now, if you remember the King of the Hill maps, before Blizzard changed the overtime mechanic, there was a problem where two teams could get locked into a stalemate, where the match would just keep going on and on and on. With a dual payload map, there is an increased chance for a never-ending stalemate where neither team can move the cart all the way to the end. In this case, there are a few ways to resolve the match. The first, which is less interesting way, is to simply have a timer, and if neither team is able to get the payload all the way to the end, then whichever team moved the cart the farthest when time runs out will win. A better way is to make it so that the rollback function of the payload gets disabled after a certain amount of time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, whenever a payload is not being pushed forward, after a few seconds, it will start to roll backwards. By disabling this, you make it so that the teams are able to slowly inch forward their payloads, but it will never get rolled back. There might be some overtime with this method, but it's guaranteed that one team will win by moving their cart all the way. Another interesting thing that can be added to payload maps in general is more verticality. Again, in Team Fortress 2, there were some payload maps that had very steep inclines. In order to get the payload all the way up the incline, you had to constantly stay with it. Now, these inclines weren't very long, in fact they were very small sections of the map, but it required you to get the cart from the bottom of the incline all the way to the top in one try, because if you stopped moving it at any time, the payload would very quickly roll all the way back down. Another version of this is an elevator that functions the same way as the incline, but instead it goes straight up. I think there's a lot of interesting things that can be done with payload-style maps in Overwatch, and hopefully Blizzard will be willing to stray away from the standard, simple payload type that they currently have. I would love to see dual payload maps where both teams have to race to get their payload all the way to the end through an intersecting crisscross map where you start on one side and you bring your payload over to the other side and then back again, and then maybe there's some elevator stuff or incline stuff with lots of verticality. I mean, there's so many different possibilities, and that would be pretty awesome. But hey, let me know what kind of payload variations you'd like to see in the comment section below. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the new videos. But that's going to be about it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, share it with your friends. Remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.